Welcome back to episode 12 of Eye on Horror, and I'm your host, James J. Edwards, and with me, as always, my faithful companion, Jacob Davison. How you doing, Jacob?
Doing good and feeling better.
Feeling better? You been under the weather?
No, just, I don't know, I wanted to sound cool.
Oh, okay. Well, mission accomplished. Also with us is Jonathan Correa. How you doing, John?
I'm doing well. Not as cool as Jacob over there, but, you know, I'm awake as we're recording this early in the morning, right? No, it's not that early.
It's a Sunday morning, and we're recording. John and Jacob have to head off to Monsterpalooza today, and they never bring me anywhere. I embarrass them, but it doesn't help that I'm, a good 150 miles away from them. But yeah, they're going to have a lot of fun while I'm sitting here watching the Steelers get their asses kicked by the Chiefs, I'm sure.
See, he's acting like it has nothing to do with the fact that he constantly talks about sports. Like, it's like...
And talking about sports at a horror convention is not cool.
Yeah, that's a no-go. Like, I mean...
Last night, there was an awesome SDSU ASU game that went down to the wire, and those are my two schools. So, but I'm more Aztec than Sun Devil. Anyway, we're going down that Rollerball. There's a sports horror movie. Yeah, let's talk about Rollerball.
Yeah, dude, I could talk about Rollerball all day.
The original, not the Chris Klein. Was it LL Cool J? Was he the other?
Yeah, he was there too.
James Caan. That's the Rollerball. All right, let's get rolling because you guys got Monsterpalooza in to do. What do we got for news?
For recent news, one of the cool things that's coming out, AMC announced recently the docuseries Eli Roth's History of Horror is going to be premiering this fall, which I don't know about you guys, but I grew up watching these like docuseries about horror films was my introduction to horror films I didn't know about. So if you remember, I think it was Bravo had one. The top 100 scariest movies of all time, where they interviewed people and they did an even scarier movie where it was like 25 more. But the best one, I think, back in the day was the Encyclopedia of Horror, which is so hard to find on home video. I think you need to get like a Japanese laser disc in order to watch it, or someone to make you a bootleg copy off of that laser disc. But
say that's what gray markets are made for.
Yeah, and. But yeah, and we all know my opinions about Eli Roth's work, but I will tell you this, that man knows his horror history. So I am actually very excited about this. I think it's going to be really cool, especially since with this one, it's not just saying, oh, how scary was this movie? Oh, how scary was this movie? He's actually going through the different eras and times with it. So that's definitely going to be on my watch list. Another big news, for me at least, because I'm a huge fan of the Swamp Thing comics. I never really got into the movies, but the comics have always been a huge reading point for me, is the upcoming TV show that they're doing for the DC streaming service, DC Universe. There's rumors that Derek Mears, who played Jason in the Friday the 13th reboot, remake, redo, whatever you want to call it, they're saying that he's rumored to play the creature in that, and that the series itself is going for a hard R, which... I don't think there really is a rating. What is it, TVMA it would be? But even then, when it comes to streaming services, they don't have to abide by those rules. So, but they say they're going for a hard R, making it more brutal than what you would typically see. I don't know if Swamp Thing necessarily needs that, but allowing for the more adult themes, especially during Alan Moore's run, to come in would be great. One thing that I'm definitely hoping for is the creature design. I don't care who's playing it. I know Derek Mears, if he does it, is going to kill it. They have to get that character design down, because if you remember, as much as we love Wes Craven, the character design in the movie was kind of iffy. But if they base this off of like Stephen Bissett's designs from when he was doing it with Alan Moore and things of that nature, it'd be great. Now with this series, it's a great opportunity to bring back Matt Ryan as Constantine, because he was only got to be Constantine for one season and a couple of animated movies, which are pretty good. But it would be great to see him come back and interact with Swamp Thing more. And another huge thing, it's not really news because nothing's quite in the works yet, at least as far as we know. But Jason Blum has said that he wants to revive the Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise, which those ones, I don't know. I think there's a lot of horror franchises that you could do like a nice reboot. I think he's coming off of Halloween very high, thinking, what else can we do? And I don't know, are you guys ready for possibly a new generation of remember when Platinum Doom was remaking everything, but more of a reboot and a continuation? Are you guys ready for that?
Not Scream. I kind of feel about a Scream remake the same way I would about Carrie, which we talked about last week. Why would you do it when the original is so good? I think Scream, they nailed it the first time. Now, I know what you did last summer, they could improve upon. So I would actually be cool with seeing them take another swing at that. But Scream, no. I'm not really. I mean, I'll watch it, but, I'm not interested in a Scream reboot.
Well, with me, if it were anybody else, I'd be skeptical, but, this is Blumhouse, and, considering their properties, like Halloween's already got a lot of positive buzz, so, Scream, that could go any which way, but it would be interesting to see what they do if I Know What You Did Last Summer, just because honestly I thought that was pretty much done with by the first movie, and they shouldn't have even made the sequels, but just that's the thing, they're such an amazing company, they're able to do a lot with stuff you wouldn't expect. So, I'd be interested in seeing what they have in mind.
With the Scream franchise, they've already done so much. I'm not saying they covered everything with it, but even with Scream 4 bringing it into the new era with, the internet and social media, is there really anything else to explore? And even if there is it really necessary? Because, between 4 movies and a TV show that went, 2 or 3 seasons, there's really a lot that's already been covered. Whereas I Know What You Did Last Summer, that's something that you could do interesting with. With that one, I'd want to see a full reboot. Unless they're going to go absolutely ridiculous with the title, saying, I still haven't forgotten what happened that one summer where you did that terrible thing, Which always confused me, because didn't the sequels take place a year or so later, and it was no longer last summer? So why?
Yeah, I only saw part 2. I didn't, or what I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, I think it was called. That's the only one I saw, where they go to Jamaica or something, and Jack Black plays White Rosted pot dealer. I never saw I'll Always Know, or what is I'll Never Forget, whatever the third one's called.
Either way,
I never got around to that one. But it is. It's only a name, but it's no longer last summer by the time because it's the next. She's gone through a year of college, and it was 2. I Know What You Did 2 summers ago. Maybe they should have called it.
I'm just saying, if the Friday franchise can at least get their things in order, Friday, next Friday, the Friday after next, at least they're consistent with the chronological order of how their shit goes down. At least I Know What You Did Last Summer can do the same thing. That franchise needs to get their shit together.
But what about Saturday the 14th following Friday the 13th?
I still haven't seen that.
That's a whole other thing.
We'll get there. Another newsworthy thing that everyone's probably heard about is Burt Reynolds died, which is only tangentially horror related. To me, Deliverance is one of the most horrifying movies ever. And one of my favorite movies of all time isn't really horror, but Boogie Nights, and Burt Reynolds anchors that movie.
Which is funny because he hates that movie.
I can't believe that he hated it because it's so good. But I don't know. I'm not sure of his reasoning of hating it, but didn't he got nominated for an Oscar for that?
I think it's the same reason why Mark Wahlberg doesn't like Boogie Nights, and it's just the content, the fact that it's about porn and that there is, a lot of adult simulated situations, because Mark Wahlberg has stepped out and said that. It's all right, because you being in the 4th or 5th Transformers movie is the pinnacle of your career. or what you did in your youth in Boston. We don't need to get into his criminal record, but but Boogie Nights is what you were. Okay, no, anyways.
The sad thing about Burt Reynolds dying, well, one of the sad things, is he was slated to be in the new Quentin Tarantino movie, which is one of my most anticipated, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and he didn't get to shoot his scenes, I guess, so they're going to have to replace him. They can't just, they didn't even shoot enough for them to Carrie Fisher him in. They're going to have to replace him, which is a drag because I actually think that might have been a cool little swan song for him if he could have shot his scenes before he passed. But, I mean, it's not like the movie's in jeopardy or anything, but we're not going to get to see Burt Reynolds in a role that, knowing Quentin Tarantino, is probably written for Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
So.
All right, and in other news, let's see, for all my creeps out there, it looks like there's going to be a Creep 3 from Mark Duplass and Patrick Bryce. I watched both Creep movies, and like they've been getting progressively better, because the first one was pretty cool. Second one was really good. Like I really enjoyed the second one better, you know, because like it just keeps on, like it broke the mold. And from the sounds of things, things are going to get even crazier. I'm just reading here. Patrick Bryce talked about last October. I like the idea, if we do a third movie, it being our Army of Darkness, you know, going kind of off the rails. We'll see. But that's the thing, you know, just like they didn't stick with a formula, and they have no intention of sticking to a formula, so I have no idea what to expect from the third one, but I am intrigued. On another note, connecting to our main topic today, it was reported a little bit ago that the soundtrack for Mandy by Johan Johansson, the Nordic composer who sadly died recently, will be, and it's his final work, will be getting a special vinyl release on September 21st, and there's going to be some special pressings from Lakeshore, and so like it's going to have like a clear. There's like a clear red vinyl and like a black vinyl editions.
For all you vinyl junkies out there.
You mean me?
And me.
Okay, so we go from Burt Reynolds and Johan Johansson dying to let's end news on an upbeat note. What do you got, John?
Well, this isn't really news so much as
just fun.
As you guys know, we're all on Facebook. Facebook's, you know, a part of our lives, whether it's great or not. But it often recommends stuff to me that doesn't really appeal to me. And I was on Facebook the other day, and they showed this ad for Dan's Collectibles and More. And this guy, or this shop, does custom minifigs, the little Lego minifigurines. And I scrolled through it, and it was brilliant. Timothy Rawls, one of the editors in chief at iHorror, he ended up writing the article. I was working a lot this week, but man, the thing is that these are custom made for properties that they don't own the rights to. So they do all these horror films, The Shining, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw. They make those characters, but they can't call them those characters. So what ends up happening is these really cool minifigs have the most hilarious names. Like the Jack Torrance one is supposed to be Hotel Killer. The Freddy one is Claws Killer. One of my favorite is Pinhead from Hellraiser is Pincushion Head.
That was one of my favorites. My absolute favorite was American Crazy Guy, who is totally not Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. Don't even think it. Even though his business card says Pierce and Pierce. He is
It's so good. Another good one is, see if you can figure out this movie, Ty, what character this movie is. Puzzle Killer Mini with Saw.
With what?
Yeah, it's the Jigsaw doll, and he holds an actual Lego saw.
Jesus.
As if you couldn't drive the point far enough with the face.
A little on the nose, isn't it?
Those are great. I'm not going to lie. I actually did purchase American Crazy Guy. He's on the way, so I'll let you guys know of the quality. I also did a couple of... There's a Kurt Cobain one that I think he's called Grunge Singer. Okay. And there was a set that came with a Freddie Mercury and a David Bowie, and I think David Bowie might be called Starman.
Yeah.
And maybe the Freddie Mercury, it might even be just Queen Singer or something, but it's hilarious the way that the guy gets around copyright infringement, because these are obvious.
Yeah, dead on.
Visually, there's no mistaking what he's going for, but Pincushion Head.
And that's the thing. As much as we're laughing and making fun of the names, these are actually really well done. Because I mean, those minifigs are really small, so the attention to detail, like you can clearly tell that's Rocky. You can clearly tell that's Rambo, even though they're listed as Army Dude, you know, or Trenchcoat Castle.
And I just realized, you know, that's the exact same thing they do for like Halloween costumes. Like,
yes,
like
do.
Jason Voorhees is in a Jason Voorhees costume. It's Hockey Mask Killer and like Freddy Krueger's like Blade Hand Man.
Yeah.
So you see, just working around copyrights.
Although we still can't figure out who Prison Architect is.
I think that's is that not the guy from Prison Break?
I have no idea. I don't watch.
Because he has the tattoos all over him. So I thought it was the guy from Prison Break.
Is it Prison Break?
Maybe one of our listeners who checks out the article and thumbs through. He has more than just horror movie stuff too. Obviously I listed off a few of the music ones they did, but there's like a Kiss set, but I think they call it like Starman, Cat, Demon, and it's at Space Ace or whatever those names were.
There's so many more. He did a great run of like actual buildable sets for like the Jaegers and the monsters from Pacific Rim. So go to iHorror.com, find our article on it there, or just go to danscollectiblesandmore.com. Laugh at all the funny names for it. Spirit Rider is another favorite of mine. 1980s vampires, which is clearly Lost Boys.
Those are good.
You can laugh at the names, but honestly, these are really cool, and I'm very tempted to get the Bio Exorcist minifig for Beetlejuice.
When I get my American Crazy Guy and my Kurt, those are the two that have shipped already. American Crazy Guy and the Kurt Cobain one. When I get them, I'll report back with how good a quality they are. The pictures, they look great. Hopefully they are just like they are pictured, because they're a lot of fun. I couldn't help myself with American Crazy Guy though. That just was killing me.
Like I said, I'm eyeballing that Gypsy Jaeger one so hard right now. Like I'm looking through it right now, and it's just for $150 I could have all 4 Jaegers. No, I can't. No money right now.
Yeah, no. Let's move on to some new releases. Since last time we talked, there have been 2 big new releases. The Nun is the first. Either you guys see The Nun?
I saw The Nun.
The Nun, I kind of struggle with The Nun because I don't feel like it was a whole movie. It was there wasn't really much of a story to it. It's just a series of spooky situations, and it's pretty well made. I mean, I thought the acting was good, the directing was good. There's no script to it really. It just feels like a series of little short films where this one's in a graveyard, this one's in a tunnel. It had its moments, but I think it's my least favorite of the Conjuring universe movies. And that includes the first Annabelle.
Ooh.
Shots fired.
I saw it too, although it was pretty cool. I got to see it in that new thing, Cinema X, where like the walls of the theater are also the screens for certain scenes, so like it expands. Yeah, I mean, that's a thing. It did feel rather light on plot, but actually I kind of enjoyed it, It's very distilled gothic horror, and it had a real Fulci vibe to it, It there was definitely some scenes that were homages to Gates of Hell, like the Buried Alive bit. And yeah, I mean, definitely it was a very flawed movie, like my biggest complaint being that The Nun wasn't really in it that much.
Yeah.
Although there were some pretty good spooky nuns in that movie. Those weird faceless ghoul nuns. I like that. But yeah, no, there definitely were some narrative issues, and the tone kind of went all over the place. It was fun for a watch. So, it was all right. But yeah, it felt like there was some meddling with the script, which is unfortunate because I really like the director, Corin Hardy, who directed 2015's The Hallow. Did you guys see that one?
Yeah, I loved The Hallow.
It was like the evil fairies. There's like hardcore Grimm's fairy tale fairies.
The other big new release since last time we talked was The Predator.
Oh yeah.
What'd you think of The Predator?
I mean, I liked it. It definitely delivered on the action and stuff, but again, it felt kind of flawed and tonal.
It felt unfinished.
Yeah, that's the thing. It just felt a bit all over the place. It felt like it got just buried in studio notes and meddling by executives.
Yeah,
because there's definitely a lot of bits that you can tell are Fred Decker, the co-writer, and Shane Black, the co-writer and director, but yeah, it does feel like they were kind of forced on some scenes to go in certain directions, and it just went all over the place, which is unfortunate.
It's bafflingly edited and I know that there was a big scandal where they had to cut out a scene that had a registered sex offender in it, and you can tell where that scene that all of a sudden Olivia Munn's character is in the movie. It's that was her introductory scene that's gone. So all of a sudden she's dumped into the movie, and that's cool. But there's other things like that where like you're sitting there. Wait, how did they get in that motorhome? Or it's the way it seems like there's a lot missing. Like, they like maybe they didn't shoot, it's almost like they forgot to shoot some linking scenes. It's really bafflingly put together. But that being said, it's exactly the movie I expected it to be from a modern Predator movie. I mean, it's real effects heavy. It's real Predator heavy. And the one of the Predators, minor spoiler, there's two. One of them, they say he's a hunter, and he brings his dogs with him. So there are these, they almost look like the dogs from Ghostbusters, the big statue come to life. That's what they look like. Yeah.
It's funny because the dogs, I think, were kind of a continuation of, in Predators, they had hunter dogs too.
Yeah,
so that was pretty cool.
But that's the way they put it. Where the guys, he's a hunter. He brought his dogs with him.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't hate it, but I just I feel like it could have been so much better if they had finished it. I mean, it feels more unfinished to me than the Snowman did. And the Snowman, the director actually admitted that they only shot 80% of the movie. So
yikes. And the other thing too is that they had a really great cast.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I feel like everybody really shined. My personal favorite being Keegan-Michael Key. As PTSD soldier, and just I loved hearing his interviews because I think Keegan-Michael Key may be the biggest Predator fan on the planet, because he went deep dive in an interview with Conan about Predator lore I didn't even know about. And that's the other thing too. Jake Busey was in the movie, and he's supposed to be Gary Busey's son from Predator 2, but he isn't really used that much, and it feels like his scenes were kind of cut out. So the whole editing issue.
And they didn't really make a big deal out of him being Gary Busey's son. That didn't become a plot point.
Yeah.
It was just kind of, he just showed up, and he was one of the scientists, yeah. Also in new releases, there's a movie opening, I believe it's this Friday, the 14th. So by the time this posts, you'll be able to see it. It's called Lizzie, and it is predictably about the Lizzie Borden murders. It stars Chloe Sevigny and Kristen Stewart, and it's kind of a different I mean, everybody pretty much knows the story. Lizzie Borden had an axe. She gave her father 40 whacks, and she got away with it. They didn't convict her, so a lot of people think she got away with murder. Well, this is a different take on it. It's not super horrifying. Some of the gore is pretty good, but it's not super axe murdery. It's more about the relationship between Chloe Sevigny and Kristen Stewart plays the maid, the housemaid, and they have a relationship. So it's kind of a different take on what it is. Did you either of you guys see Lizzie?
No,
I saw the trailer for it, and I'm really interested in that.
It's pretty good. It's worth seeing. Definitely worth seeing. Also, and this one actually is out now, not really horror, so I don't want to take too much time on it, but everybody should see it. A Simple Favor.
Yeah, I heard really crazy things about that movie.
It is going to make my top 10, possibly top 5. It is so great. It's Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, and it's kind of just this pulpy, trashy murder mystery kind of a thing. Go into it knowing as little as possible, because it ends as I was joking with my wife after the screening that I feel like I got up, went to the bathroom, and then came back to a different theater, because there's this tonal shift where it goes from just this dime store novel mystery to it's directed by Paul Feig, who did Bridesmaids and the Ghostbusters remake. It takes a turn where it turns into a Paul Feig movie, but it doesn't really get madcap and slapstick, and it's not super horror, but there's enough of a mystery that horror fans are going to be into it.
Interesting.
Plus, it's got two of my favorite actresses working today, Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, so that's all cool. And one more big one that maybe you guys have seen this, maybe not. Searching.
I haven't seen that one.
Searching is another one of those. The whole movie is shown on a computer screen, and it's basically this teenage girl goes missing, and her father is going through her computer, tracking her Facebook and her Skype calls and everything, trying to track her down. And it's a really effective little mystery. That's full of twists and turns. So searching, and that's been out for a few weeks. So, everybody, maybe they've already seen it. If not, track it down. It's a cool little mystery. What else you guys seen?
Okay, well, I got another big one that, definitely we just want to recommend to the high heavens. Mandy. Mandy is the second movie by Panos Cosmatos, the director of one of my other personal favorite movies, Beyond the Black Rainbow, and it stars Nicolas Cage as this lumberjack named Red, who's living with his girlfriend Mandy out in the wilderness in SoCal, and then this evil cult leader named Jeremiah Sand sees Mandy and wants her as his own, so he beats the shit out he has a bunch of goons and he beats the shit out of Nicolas Cage and drugs and tries to get Mandy. I guess it's not too much of a spoiler. He kills her, and so Nicolas Cage survives, and he becomes obsessed with revenge and goes on a psychotic, trippy, drug-fueled, rage-inducing revenge spree. And it is one of the most incredible movie experiences I think I've ever experienced. It's getting a lot of good buzz, and it's on VOD now, right? And we've been hearing about it for a while. There's been a lot of buzz about it for a while, so I'm glad it's finally out, and we could check it out. What about you, Kriya? What have you seen lately?
Well, as a guy who doesn't leave his house often except for work, I haven't been to the theater in a bit. I think last time we spoke, I actually saw 2 movies, which was rare, but I haven't been to the theater since. But I will do this as a throwback. Then I've rewatched The Frighteners recently on HD DVD. That's how hip with the times I am. But no, I was very surprised. I haven't seen The Frighteners in well over a decade, and my God, that's just a fun movie. The pacing's a little off at times, but you know what? You could see the collaboration between Peter Jackson and Robert Zemeckis. There's a lot of Zemeckis influence, whether it was his doing or Peter Jackson purposely doing that. But it's just, it was interesting rewatching it and seeing that influence, that very 90s Tales from the Crypt coming out from Peter Jackson himself.
Because that's the thing, it was originally going to be a Tales from the Crypt movie, right?
I'm not entirely sure about that, actually. I didn't know that, if it was. But I know it was the bridging gap between Peter Jackson doing Dead Alive and Bad Taste and Beautiful Creatures and then going to do Lord of the Rings. And that was the other thing with this. It was the 10th anniversary HD DVD for it. And Peter Jackson talked about how it's because of this movie they started developing Lord of the Rings because they had too many computers. With this movie, Weta originally started with 1 computer, but then because they had to do over 500 special effects shots, they got 30-something, 40-something computers. And when it got towards the end, they're in post, and Peter Jackson's going what are we going to do with all these computers? They started thinking, well, let's do a fantasy. Well, what kind of fantasy can we do? And then that's when they started discussing doing Lord of the Rings. So whether you like The Frighteners or not, you have to thank it for...
Or blame it
for giving us the Lord of the Rings movies. And also, Michael J. Fox was phenomenal in it. You rarely ever see him play a character that dark. Usually he's the fun guy, and man, he really played the dark character in that really well. And Jeffrey Combs is probably at his most Jeffrey Combs possible in that movie. Just absolutely insane.
And back at it, Jake Busey.
Yep. I have a newfound respect for Jake Busey recently. I watched a few films where he pops up in, and I think Frighteners made me go all right, this guy knows exactly what he's doing with what he's got. He knows how to use that Busey smile to his advantage.
I think the darkest I've seen Michael J. Fox is when he says, "Give me a keg of beer."
Yeah, Teen Wolf.
Have either of you guys been watching The Purge TV show?
Oh yeah, I have. I've watched both episodes so far.
Yeah, they're 2 episodes in. Have you watched it, Kriya?
No, and I'm a huge Purge fan, but I don't have cable. So is there a way to stream it legally?
That's the thing. I don't have cable either, but they've been uploading the episodes to YouTube on. It's USA, right?
Really?
Is it USA or?
I keep on forgetting.
It's USA that's putting
USA?
it up.
Okay.
Putting it on YouTube for free.
Yeah, on the USA YouTube channel. You can just watch the episodes every week on YouTube.
Oh, all right.
So
I have cable, so I have it set on my DVR. It's really interesting, though, because it basically follows 3 different storylines throughout Purge Night. And one is a guy who's looking for his sister who has gotten mixed up with something, unseedy that's better that you discover it yourself. Another is a woman who has to work all night in this secure floor of this, they have to work on Purge Night.
It's a law office or a business office.
Yeah. And another one is a couple who gets invited to one of those purge parties that we've kind of seen glimpses of.
Yeah, with the new founding fathers. So it's like it's one of the political groups behind the purge.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool because it's opening up different stories. Like, because I haven't found a complete purge movie that I've liked yet. I think I've mentioned that before. I mean, I love the first half of the first one, but then once it becomes a shoot 'em up where they're driving cars through houses and stuff, it kind of loses me. But I will always watch the movies and the TV show because the concept is so great. And I think that the TV show is kind of embracing that whole anything can happen. So, it's almost like a little series of little events that are going on, especially the guy who's looking for his sister, because the adventures that he goes through, the different places he goes through and the different people he meets while he's out on purge night looking for his sister, those ones, they're just little, almost like short films that just kind of tie the other parts together.
Yeah, like one of my favorite bits so far was like in the second episode, he's still going around the city and he gets abducted by these group of people who on
the Gauntlet.
The Gauntlet,
who runs the Gauntlet.
Yeah, like this dude who runs a like muscle cart shop, like also runs this event on Purge Night called the Gauntlet, where he kidnaps people off the street on Purge Night, like no volunteers, and basically
that's one of the rules.
Yeah, one of the rules, and he forces them to go on a race around the block. Except there's like a lot of booby traps and people who will like try to kill him, and like gunners on the sides. So like he has to go through like this Running Man maze of death type thing in order to escape. But also the prize is like a badass muscle car.
But the guy looking for his sister is a Marine. So when he gets abducted and forced to go through the Gauntlet, they don't know that this dude has a special set of skills that's going to help him through the Gauntlet.
Nice. Now, I just have one question. Please tell me that the person who's working on the Purge Night has a Clerks-like story where they weren't supposed to be working that night.
Sadly, no. There's a lot more to it. Although we can't go into it without spoiling.
Yeah, it's not just her working. It's her whole floor.
It's an office.
Like a law firm. Yeah, it's an office, and there's security on the floor. So I mean, they've taken precautions. But the way they explain it is they're like they're working with like it's either a Chinese or a Japanese company.
It's like an international deal.
Yeah, and they said, they don't care that it's Purge Night, in whatever country they're dealing with. So that's why, it's not one of those, I wasn't even supposed to be here today,
But I want it so bad. Just like imagine, can we just have a Clerks Purge?
Somebody talk to Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith.
Yeah. Kevin Smith, make the next Purge movie.
Listen.
You hear it here first. Let's do it.
Yeah. I'd be down for it.
We're huge fans of this podcast, and we just want you to, even if it's just a short, Clerks Purge, wasn't even supposed to be here tonight.
I mean, I say this legitimately. I'd actually be very interested in seeing him do kind of a more darkly comical take on the Purge, because I think that's the thing we talk about, that it'd just be more interesting to kind of see more down to earth people dealing with the Purge, or like apathetic Clerks type people, just like like if they have to work on Purge Night and stuff. And I'd be interested in seeing Kevin Smith tackle the Purge and seeing what he comes up with, because also I imagine he'd go into, because since crime's all legal and like it focuses a bit too much on just like regular murder mayhem, like I want to see like what kind of other crazy laws people break on Purge Night.
That's one of my favorite bits in the first Purge, was the guy who he's going to take advantage of Purge Night to break into the ATM. That's one of my favorite.
That was a good one.
The guy's like, I'm gonna get my money.
And I also like they do the big rave with all the drugs, because you can't be prosecuted for drugs. And
that's a good one too.
I just want to know what Jay and Silent Bob's reactions would be to it. I mean, we know they have Batman gadgets. We saw that in Mallrats, so they can maneuver around the city pretty decently. All
right, let's move on. Let's what do we got for our subgenre of the bye week?
Okay, well, I'm pretty stoked about Monster Palooza, having just gone yesterday, so I thought it'd be fun to talk about Monster Mash movies. These are types of movies where there are several or more different types of monsters going about. So I'm thinking stuff like Neon Maniacs, or From Beyond, or even the Universal crossover type movies like Mad Monster Party or Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. So that type of stuff. Yeah, I'm just always a big fan of like when different monsters interact, because you know most of the time with horror, it's like usually one specific thing. You know, like a ghost movie is a ghost movie, or a zombie movie is a zombie movie. But then what happens when you got a bunch of different monsters in the mix?
Well, the king of the Monster Mash movies is Godzilla.
Oh yeah. Well, the series, not the original, but
yeah. Well, no. Well, that's what I say. Once he became a hero instead of a villain, you know, he wasn't just, you know, smashing Tokyo up because he was pissed like in the first one. Once he became the savior and he was fighting, every new Godzilla movie was him versus somebody. And then you would have like, sometimes they just throw all of them in there, all in the same place, you know. Was it Destroy All Monsters? Is that the one that...
Yeah, that was the first like really big Battle Royale kaiju movie.
Yeah, the Battle Royale, yes.
What was the 2000s one where they literally had like Godzilla going all around the world?
Oh, yeah, it was Godzilla Final Wars, and he kills the American Godzilla remake monster
in the best way possible. First of all, they have the Godzilla, the Roland Emmerich Godzilla in Sydney, Australia, for some reason,
and pure CGI, not a suit like the other monsters.
Terrible CGI. The fight is like 2 seconds long, and then all I can remember is the fight happens, it's 2 seconds long. The original Godzilla, of course, wins like easily.
One hit KO.
It just cuts to the guy who's like controlling everything, and he's just like, you darn fish breath, or something, like some ridiculous insult.
I knew that fish breath monster wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, something
it was
like that.
Brilliant. But I can't personally talk about Monster Mash movies without bringing up my absolute favorite, Monster Squad. And that is
yes,
written and directed by Fred Decker, who co-wrote the Predator, of course, the new Predator movie, of course. But that's just a genuinely like fun movie, and honestly, I think has one of the scariest interpretations of Dracula out there. That guy, was just pure evil. He blew up a tree house thinking that there was a group of children in it, just threw a stick of dynamite and walked away badassly going, playtime's over.
Oh, yes.
Along the same lines as Monster Squad, we mentioned Saturday the 14th. That's kind of a monster mashup movie too, because it seems like, I mean, that's like a parody, but they threw everything but the kitchen sink in that movie.
Yeah, that's the thing I love about those types of movies, though, is that they just literally throw as many monsters as the audience as they can, which I never found to be overwhelming, you know, just give me as many monsters as my eyes can handle, which is also why, you know, like even bad movies, type of monster movies can still be fun, like Spookies, you know, for those who've seen it, you know, it was this low budget movie by these...
Les Spookies?
Oh, yes, I got the French DVD. Because it's like one of the only ways you can find it, where it's with the French title Les Spookies, which I believe deserves a Criterion edition in like black and white and in French dubbing. But anyway, you know, it's just such a fun movie because it was basically made by these special effects dudes who wanted to show their stuff. So like it's got all kinds of crazy shit. Like there's this electric eel monster, and like there's this woman that turns into a giant spider, and there's a bunch of ghouls, and like there's a werecat who wears a little golden tuxedo, and there's even like a Grim Reaper monster that comes to life from a statue, and when they push him out the window he explodes. So yeah, just like I love just being overwhelmed with like as many monsters as I can handle. And off of that, another favorite of mine is this one called Neon Maniacs, which was co-written by one of the dudes who would go on to co-write Pumpkinhead, and it's like about these weird like super ghoulish monsters that live under the Golden Gate Bridge, and they all have like a weird shtick or theme about them. Like there's a dude named Samurai who's like this weird demon samurai guy. There's a guy named Juice who has electrical powers. There's a doctor-themed one that uses a scalpel, and there's a little Cyclops guy named Cyclops who has like a hook hand and one eye. So yeah, no, it's just always cool just having all kinds of different monsters running rampant.
Nice. I'll have to check that one out. Neon Maniacs has been one that's been on my list for quite some time.
Speaking of more monsters than your eyeballs can handle, or as many as your eyeballs can handle, what did you think of the Goosebumps movie?
Oh, I love the Goosebumps movie.
They threw in every Goosebumps monster you could imagine into that movie. And that was the best way to do it, because we've already seen on the Goosebumps TV series, we've already seen all of those monsters in their, I mean, not exactly the same, but we've seen them, you know, in their individual stories. So I was happy that they did it that way. They escaped the books, so to speak, and they Slappy running around with the werewolf of Fever Swamp and
right,
the Yeti of Southern California.
And killer gnomes.
No, yeah. I love the killer gnomes.
The most popular of the monster movie mashups for our generation, at least, well, modern time, because my generation is different from your guys's.
Yeah, wasn't your generation's ultimate monster mashup Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein?
Oh!
Something like that. But of the modern era, of the 21st century, let's say that, is Freddy versus Jason and Alien versus Predator, which both of those, basically they just took the kings of their respective franchises and let's have them duke it out.
Yeah.
and it's kind of a throwback to the old Universal, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. That's kind of what they did in those too. I mean, you don't really think of Freddy and Jason existing in the same universe until that movie.
Well, they hinted at it. They did hint at it in Jason Goes to Hell. Remember
Jason
that?
Goes to
yeah, like that, because that's the thing. They thought they were going to do that like right after that movie, but then it took like another 10 years.
Yeah,
10 years.
Another 10 years, yeah. And Kane Hodder's heartbreaking.
And I will say this: out of the two, Alien vs. Predators, I don't like that movie. But when they actually do get to the fight is awesome. But Freddy vs. Jason, as you said, felt like a classic Universal Monsters mashup. The fight was pretty great.
The fight was awesome in Freddy vs. Jason. That final boss battle is incredible.
And also another one, speaking of more modern mashup, Monster Mash movies, definitely a personal favorite would be The Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's got
Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon. Just because, that's the thing, they built it up as, kind of like, it's kids going to a cabin in the woods, and then, the whole backstory is like, it's a conspiracy to, like, sacrifice people to ancient gods, and so it can be any monster or anything that could attack you in a cabin in the woods, and they've got them like all on standby, and then at the end they all escape. So like you got like every possible monster like just rampaging through this facility. Like there's killer clowns, killer scarecrows, a giant spider, some kind of squid monster, like an alien thing, witches.
There's a merman.
Oh, the merman. Can't forget the merman. Oh, come on.
Always bet on merman.
My only problem, because I love Cabin in the Woods, my only problem is you don't get to see that pincushion head with the Hellraiser guy with the saw blade through his head. Yeah. You don't get to see him do his thing. Once I wanted to see that dude fuck some shit up, and there's so much hell being raised by the unicorns and all the other stuff.
Oh, the unicorn.
You don't get to see the Pinhead clone. He just kind of hangs out in his cell.
Yeah, I think they called him like Hellmaster or something. Yeah. Well, yeah, because they were going for homage, so they couldn't like give him an exact name.
That sounds like a Dan's collectible figure.
It was the minifig version. And the other funny thing was originally there was going to be a big tie-in between The Cabin in the Woods and the video game Left 4 Dead, so you can see
Left 4 Dead 2,
Left 4 Dead 2, so you can see like a bunch of the special infected zombies in some of the cages. And crazily enough, there was originally going to be like an actual tie-in game, like a expansion DLC. where DLC where like you're playing Left 4 Dead in The Cabin in the Woods and you fight the like zombies and infected stuff, and I think like some of the monsters would be bosses or something.
But the issue is that the movie got shelved for how many years?
I think like 3 or 4.
Yeah, so Valve stopped developing it. Like they had it like halfway finished, and then the movie got shelved. And what's the point of releasing a DLC with a movie tie-in to a movie that's at that point not getting released ever? So
missed opportunity.
I think that talking about Alien versus Predator is going to lead us into our topic, which is action horror. With the release of The Predator
and
this past weekend, and Mandy, let's talk about some action horror movies. I have to say, my favorite subgenre of even action horror is the revenge movie. And I'm speaking particularly about Savage Streets.
Oh, yeah, Savage Streets.
Because
oh, my God.
Absolutely love Savage Streets. And the thing is, you look at it, and sure, it's gory, and it's horrific.
And sleazy.
It's one of those punks gone bad movies, but it is much more of an action movie. It's Linda Blair in her little, I won't even call it a jumpsuit. What is it? A leather.
She wears like a leather jacket.
Suit. Yeah.
It's so tight.
And she's got a crossbow.
Yeah, well, yeah, she gets her crossbow and her bear traps, and she goes after the dudes who have wronged her and her friends. And yeah, if you have not seen Savage Streets, see Savage Street. But the copy that's on Amazon Prime is annoying. The audio is terrible.
Yeah, that's actually how I watched it.
I actually couldn't even get through it. I only lasted 5 or 6 minutes, and I'm like, oh no, this is awful. It's the copy that's on, and also I think that same copy found its way onto maybe Tubi or Popcorn, one of the other free streaming services, and I tried to watch it there, and it was the same copy with the terrible audio.
Well, Code Red released it on Blu-ray a while ago, and that one's out of print. But
I was gonna say it sold out fast.
Forget the name of the company, but that movie is getting re-released on Blu-ray. If it hasn't already, it is. It's got terrible artwork. I'm gonna just say that flat out. I do not like the new artwork for it. But I mean, it's not bad. It's just it's not Savage Streets, and it's not sleazy enough for it. So you can get it on Blu-ray legally soon with better quality. A lot of people are saying it's the same transfer and special features from the Code Red. Maybe missing a few of the special features, but it should be better than the crappy audio that you find online.
Yeah. But to cut to the core, action horror is a very interesting subgenre because they're two completely different ideologies. Just because with action, you get you stimulate the audience by just having adrenaline rush and like badass scenes and people fighting monsters or terrorists and stuff. And then you got horror, which is supposed to be the protagonist is unable to like fight whatever they're fighting against, or like it's something that is a genuine threat to them. So when you put them together, I think it works best when they're finding a balance, because like maybe the person's badass but they're vulnerable. We go back to the Aliens example, in that instead of mostly unarmed space truckers, it's a team of badass space marines, but even they find themselves in over their heads. So that's a good setup for these types of movies. Just that they're capable, but they may be in over their head dealing with whatever horror they're having to fight.
And that's a big plot when it comes to action horror, is you have the group of the highly trained, mostly soldiers or mercenaries, and they go in and they just get completely fucked quickly. So it quickly becomes like, see, these guys are the top of the top and they can't even handle this. That's where you get game over, man. And you see it come up a lot of times, like in the original Predator, and the sequel Predators. You see it in Dog Soldiers, where they come in and these guys are again supposed to be able to handle their own, but this menace is much more. And I would even say that the two genres can go pretty well in hand because of that, because you're establishing that this threat is the ultimate threat. So it's kind of taking action and putting it to the next level, because it's allowing itself to be terrifying as well as gory as all hell. Although you can have an action film and still be gory, as we've seen with the Raid movies.
Definitely. Like one of my favorites that I was also going to bring up, Stephen Sommers' Deep Rising, which is also, again, going into multiple genres, one of my favorite aqua horror movies, because you got Treat Williams as this captain who's bringing all these mercenaries to this cruise ship where they're gonna like raid it and sink it, and then they get to the cruise ship in the South China Sea, and like nobody's there. It's like something happened, but everybody's gone. And then it turns out like there's this there's these crazy like worm monster things that they're just going around eating people, swallowing them whole and slowly digesting them, and it ate pretty much everyone. So, and like their ship's damaged, so they got to figure out a way to get off the cruise ship and find a ship to get away from the ship and away from from the sea monsters, which spoiler alert, are actually the tentacles of this giant like kraken like sea monster that just uses the tentacles to go through the ship and like pick off everybody one by one.
We talk about the balance between action and horror. I think a series, although I think the movies themselves are flawed, but one series that nails that balance is the Purge series.
Yeah.
I think those movies strike a perfect balance between action horror, because the concept of, this lawless anarchy where people are out killing each other. I mean, the imagery in the Purge I think is one of the strongest aspects of the series. Like there's that one, actually there's a couple of different scenes. I think it was in Anarchy. There's one where you see the guillotine, where they're just walking by an alley and there's a guillotine in it and they're cutting people's heads off. And you're like, okay, that's powerful. And there's another one where there's a girl covered in blood just standing on the street, cause she's having like some kind of like a breakdown as they drive by her. And, just those images are just completely horrific. But the Purge movies are action movies. I mean, I already talked about the second half of the first one. They're driving cars through houses and shoot, more bullets than knives.
Oh, especially once you get the Frank Grillo character introduced in Anarchy, it becomes just straight up action with a lot of horror throughout it. Yeah.
And then Election Year actually that one's complete. He's on the run with that politician he's protecting. So yeah, that just becomes, flat out action, but the horror elements are sprinkled throughout just because of the night that it is.
Yeah.
The Purge is such an enigma for me because I love the concept so much, and there are glimpses in the movies, but the movies themselves, I don't think they're that. I feel like they've wasted the concept, but I keep watching because eventually they're going to nail it, and it's probably going to be one of my favorite movies of all time when they do.
No, I'm with you.
The TV series is coming pretty close to nailing it, though. I think that the TV series might be better than any of the movies right now.
Yeah, I'm very interested in what they're doing with the show, especially because, they're able to do it long form, so they're kind of building the tension. Like one of the scarier subplots is the whole thing with the new founding fathers party, because nothing's happened yet, but they keep on alluding to stuff, and like there's some weird shit going on at like the mansion with like all these politicians and millionaires, and like they decide to have fun by like wearing these masks of serial killers and mass murderers.
Dead killers,
and the thing is that they praise them because like they say people like the Zodiac killer or Ted Kaczynski were the precursors to the Purge, so they're giving idolatry to murder. And this couple, who are there because I don't know, they're doing some kind of payment or something. It's like it's kind of a paranoia thing because you're not sure if they're being targeted for something, but like people give them weird looks, and it's there's some odd connections. So I do like that bit because it is getting really tense.
Yeah, this couple doesn't belong there. So they are building to something, and I kind of can't wait to see what they do with it.
Yeah.
But do you think they'll go full Salo with the millionaires?
Eyes wide shut.
That's a different topic.
Yeah, but
we're getting away from action horror now.
And going back to it, I want to bring back up Mandy, because it's definitely a revenge movie, and I'd say it is in the realm of action horror. It's not too scary, but like definitely the highlight is there's all these surreal imagery, because at some point Nicolas Cage's character does some drugs, so we start to see some trippy visuals, and there's this whole thing where he's fighting this group called the Black Skulls, which are these super fucked up bikers who are like decked out in like Cenobite like sadomasochistic armor and like piercings and shit. And there's actually a couple of good scares in there, and you actually do see the aftermath of the Black Skulls murders, and it's fucked. And it's just really fucked up. And Nicolas Cage himself can actually be pretty scary, because on his revenge spree, like, he goes hard, and there's a lot of decapitation and just a lot of brutal kills. And I think we brought it up before that he said that his influence for kind of his character during his revenge spree is Jason Voorhees, which makes perfect sense because there's a couple of glory kills, that are kind of match up nice with the type of stuff Jason would do, and I feel like a couple were kind of homage. And I was actually listening to the Shockwaves podcast because they had Panos on, and he mentions that for his building up with Cage, building up his motivation for Nicolas Cage's character, he gave Nicolas Cage a copy of Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood.
Nice.
Yeah, just to kind of nail down that character.
Now, I will say this to our listeners. If there's any testament to how much Jacob loves this movie and how much you should see Mandy, is this is the most I've ever heard Jacob swear, ever. Like,
I fucking love it.
You can listen to all the podcasts, but I'm saying on the podcast, outside the podcast, never heard this man swear so much. That's how badass this movie is, because it's getting... Not saying that Jacob doesn't swear, but damn, man.
It's got me amped up.
Yeah, language.
Would you say that what Mandy is to Jacob is what Rampage is to you?
Oh, damn. First of all, check it. Go to Walmart. They still have Rampage toys out there. I got Stretch Armstrong ones. My girlfriend hates them because they make noise constantly, and I already had to hide them in the closet, but they are worth $10 each. And that's our
totally
Rampage
are.
plug of the week.
I have those same the cool thing about those Stretch Armstrong toys is they're modeled after the video game characters.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
they're totally cartoony. They're awesome. But mine made noise the whole time I was checking out with them too. The cashier was like, "What the hell are you buying?"
And it's just like, don't worry, I'm a man child. It happens. But I was very tempted to get some of the bigger action figures of the monsters, especially the one for George, because it came with a little rock, and it barely looked like him, like a misshapen, like if the Rock met Mr. Potato Head. It was great.
God. Although on Rampage, would you say that's action horror?
More action than horror.
Yeah.
Although
There's that one scene with the wolf. That's about it. That's close to horror. I would put that more towards the Monster Mash.
Yeah.
'cause
actually,
actually-
kaiju.
So to make Rampage relevant, instead of just bringing it up like we always do, it is a Monster Mash, and I would even say it was a graveyard smash.
Yes, it makes sense.
But back to action horror, of course.
So I definitely would say, feel like it was very prominent in the 80s, you know, that action horror really took root. Like, you know, I feel Predator was probably a turning point on that. But also, yeah, like a lot of sequels, I feel like got a little actionized, because one of my other favorites, Phantasm 2, like things definitely got amped up on the action level. Because it was a Universal movie, and Don Coscarelli got a bigger budget, and I feel like it might have been a bit of a Alien and Aliens thing, where want to do something different by ramping it up, because this is post Phantasm. Mike's grown up, and Reggie and him both want revenge against the Tall Man. So
Phantasm series is great.
Oh yeah.
do you guys consider, what subgenre would you guys consider Tremors to be? Is that action? Is it action horror comedy? Would you call it?
Yeah, actually,
all three.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely say it's a good good blend of the three,
because it's got all three. Yeah,
Yeah, I'd say the first one is, at least.
Yeah, no, definitely the first one was the one that really nailed it down, because they were good on the scares, because like they really built it up, because at first you don't see the graboids, it's just something's moving under the dirt, and then they find that one snakehead thing, so they just assume it's like a bunch of those, and then I think it was when they're riding on horseback, and then they're attacked, and then the huge fucking worm monster appears. Like that was a good scare. And then of course you got Burt Gummer, played by Michael Gross, who's got all the guns and stuff, so they're able to fight back that way. But again, it's like even though they're kind of prepared for it, they're in over their heads.
But it's heavier on the action than it is on the scares, I think. Tremors, I think it's more action oriented than scares, but the whole thing has that classic 50s B movie vibe that, considering when it was made, kind of makes it campy, so that's where the comedy comes in.
Yeah, 1990.
Yeah, it's a really well-balanced movie. It might be the perfect balance of all three, actually.
I have a rebuttal.
Korea doesn't want to call Tremors the perfect anything, so he's gonna...
Now, again, I don't hate the Tremors franchise. I just haven't seen the sequels. Just want to get that clear. I do own Tremors on HD DVD, so I'm in. All right. But to say that that's the perfect action comedy horror, I think there's already a king. It came out after Tremors, but Army of Darkness is that perfect blend of. It's more on the action comedy side, but there are some pretty good horror bits in there. And for me, Army of Darkness is always going to win almost any argument for me.
There can be two perfect blends.
There can be.
Because I can't really think of a rebuttal to saying that Army of Darkness is not the perfect blend of action, comedy, and horror either, though. So,
but there's only one king, and you have to hail to him.
Yeah. No, because again, actionized sequels, like it's a complete reversal on Evil Dead 2, which did, have some action bits because, he gets the chainsaw and the shotgun in Evil Dead 2. But, in Army of Darkness, it's full-blown, like Jason and the Argonauts, and, they got all the skeletons and stuff.
Now, I will say, just to bring it back to what James was saying earlier about revenge stories, I think, because I definitely want to mention it before we leave this topic, I Saw the Devil. It has to be, like, the plot is your typical, action plot. Guy was wrong, guy goes out for revenge. But it is terrifying and hard to watch. And just the themes that they bring up in that movie of going too far. What is revenge? What is justice? And how far someone can, like, essentially give themselves up to that mission is really brutal. And overall, it's just an uncomfortable film. But it's so brilliantly made and so brutal. Like that whole greenhouse scene when he finally catches up to his character was just, you couldn't look away, but it was like watching the most glorious train wreck.
Yeah, I still need to see that one.
Oh, definitely. Highly recommend. I believe it's still on Netflix.
Do you think that Old Boy is classified as action horror?
Oh, that's an interesting one.
It's definitely action. He's killing people with a claw hammer.
I think the overall plot and some of the themes that they bring up, like what he got him to do with, I don't want to spoil Old Boy because that's the original, not the Spike Lee one.
Well, they're kind of close. The plots are pretty much the same. Yeah. That was my one problem with Spike Lee's. If you've seen the original, you already know the twist.
Yeah, but basically the whole twist and like what he did is pretty fucked up and terrifying. But I would say overall, it's more on the action side. Basically,
like the Raid movies. Which,
where it's gruesome and it's intense, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily horror. But I mean, Old Boy still fucks with my head to this day.
Not like The Purge, where there are actually horror elements to it, more than just people being killed. It's the way they're killed. Like the old ladies with the dolls.
The exploding dolls while listening to Rick James. Like that was definitely a highlight from the first Purge.
See, I still need to see first Purge. Damn.
It has some good stuff going for it.
I'm very behind on my Purge watching.
The first Purge has the most pure Purger in it. A guy what the hell was his name?
Skeletor, the mess head.
Skeletor, yes. He's the dude who's doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, and also he's big on the canon because technically he's the first person to kill somebody on the Purge. So he's made the history books. And he's like this, and he is really really scary because he's this messed up meth head who arms himself with like kind of a Freddy Krueger impromptu glove of like razor blades and needles.
They're
and
hypodermic needles.
Hypodermic needles, yeah. And so he's just all for like murdering on the Purge. Like he's an angry, drug-addled maniac.
Which I don't know if you guys have ever accidentally pricked yourself with a hypo. I mean, my cat's diabetic, and when I was getting his insulin together, those sons of bitches hurt, and they bleed a lot.
Oh,
you're bringing up so many fears of filming on the border to New Jersey. Like, anytime I've ever filmed there, it's like, all right, we got to clean up this area a little bit. And it's like, so many needles. Why didn't I bring gloves to the set today?
Which Saw movie was it that?
Two.
Two.
Was it two?
It was two.
Where Amanda had to go into the pit of.
That was probably the most
terrible scene.
Like you can definitely like show people getting their hands sawed off. You can have people's heads get cut off, and I won't flinch. But needles and pus just get me every time, and that's why Takashi Miike will always like make me cringe. Like audition with all the needles. I know we're getting off topic, but just goddamn.
Bring things back on topic. Another big action horror movie I absolutely must bring up is The Hidden by Jack Shoulder with Kyle MacLachlan and Michael Nouri. Like, I feel like that did a pretty good balance too, because the horror element came from, okay, so it's like this space alien criminal that's like this parasitic slug that jumps from person to person is on the loose in Los Angeles. Yeah, and like the horror comes from the fact that you can't that there are scenes where you can't tell who is the hidden, so he can get the jump on our characters at any time. But it's also a really great action movie. Because for one thing, you got the buddy cop thing with, like Michael Nouri is the hardened L.A. detective, and Kyle MacLachlan's the stoic FBI agent. Except, spoiler alert, he's not necessarily an FBI agent. He's like an alien cop who's been after the space gangster guy because the space criminal guy also killed his partner. So it's great because there's these kind of alien horror tropes mixed with these buddy cop tropes. And and there's some great bits with that too, like when the alien's in the body of a stripper and she's got like an assault rifle and they gotta like chase her to the rooftop. Yeah, no, just it's a lot of great action pieces, but also some good horror pieces because it's kind of like The Thing. You don't know who it is.
Speaking of The Thing, we can't let a discussion of action horror go by without mentioning one of the masters of horror who also dabbles in the realm of action, more than dabbles, John Carpenter. He's actually kind of 50-50 action and horror because, I mean, you have like his classics, The Thing, Halloween, Christine, but then you've got Escape from New York, Escape from L.A., Big Trouble in Little China, which you can't really say are horror movies.
And They Live. Don't forget They Live.
And, They Live is absolutely more of an action. I mean, it's got a 10-minute WWF scene in the middle.
You dirty motherfucker.
I would argue, actually, that Assault on Precinct 13 is an action horror film.
Definitely.
It absolutely is.
It's a total, like, at that point, modern Western, classic, like Alamo type style.
Yeah, it was a riff on Rio Bravo.
Yeah, it's Night of the Living Dead meets Rio Bravo.
Yeah, but with no zombies. But it's a total zombie movie, like especially when they're smashing through the windows and you see the arms coming through.
Yeah.
You say no zombies, but the gang, I forget what the name of the gang is. Street Thunder, yes. You say no zombies, but the members of Street Zombies, the members of Street Thunder are kind of zombies because they don't develop the characters at all. They just show up as silhouettes on the horizon and they're just trying to break in. They're zombies without being zombies.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, pretty much. And because they're kind of zombies in that they're fanatics. We brought up some of the stuff with cults. It's like this is like kind of a criminal cult. Like that one guy, the one prisoner they team up with. He's kind of one of the only characters who gives background in Street Thunder because like they do a cholo. Like they throw that pot of blood at him because they want revenge on the dude that killed one of their leaders. And just it's scary because they're so fanatical that they'll even die to try to kill them.
The really cool thing about Street Thunder is it's a multiracial gang. They don't go. Yeah. You've got blacks, whites, Hispanics. I mean, it's anybody who's in LA can be in that gang. Apparently,
it's a very progressive, fanatical cult gang. Very progressive.
Yeah, it's a progressive, fanatic street gang.
And back to it, yes. And the protagonists are actually at a disadvantage because they got the precinct, but they don't have a lot of guns. They don't have a lot of ammo. It's only a few of them because there's that great sequence where Street Thunder picks off like over like half of the characters in the precinct, and because they got silencers, nobody knows for a little bit. Like that one officer walks outside and then he's down, and everybody's like, oh, and like
he just fell down.
The secretary's like, he just fell down, but he was fucking shot to death. So it does a really good balance on the action with the horror because there's also that great hallway sequence in the jail cells where like that dude's coming and Napoleon breaks that dude's neck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, what else we got? Action horror wise, are we ready to wrap up?
Well, we mentioned it, but I would definitely like to bring up again Dog Soldiers by Neil Marshall.
Yep,
yeah,
cool.
Because a lot of these movies also work as great siege movies, but that one's just a lot of fun too. Because also it's funny because like a lot of those dudes would go on to work on Game of Thrones.
I was gonna say all the good action sequence episodes of Game of Thrones were Neil Marshall. I mean,
Blackwater and The Wall, and
did he do Battle of the Bastards? Was that Neil Marshall? Or was that someone else?
No, I think that was somebody else actually.
Okay,
but that was a good one too.
Right, that was a great one. That might be my favorite episode of the whole series. But we're digressing. Neil Marshall, whenever they needed a great big action battle sequence, they're like, let's get this guy, because he does them well. Nobody does them like Neil Marshall, really.
Very true. And it all goes back to dog soldiers, because you got these British soldiers that are like doing an exercise, but then they get wrapped up in some crazy operation with werewolves, and they have to shack up in this little cabin in the woods while being besieged by fucking werewolves. And these are scary wolfmen werewolves. Like, they walk on two legs. They've got big ass claws. They're really fucking tall. And it's like these are some really scary werewolves, and so I think they do a good job of kind of balancing that out as well.
But have we reached the end of our action horror discussion?
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it.
I'd say overall, action and horror kind of go hand in hand, kind of like comedy and horror.
They do, yeah.
It's all about the adrenaline.
Yeah.
It's about the adrenaline, the thrills.
Absolutely.
Exactly, and I think that's why you also see a lot of amusement parks take on the Halloween theme very seriously this time of year. I know a few of us are going to Universal Horror Nights. I think Anthony was at the opening. I'm going to the Six Flags Fright Fest sometime this month.
I'm going to Not Scary Farm on Thursday.
Oh, you are? But Elvira's not there anymore. What's the point?
Oh, it made me sad. I was actually at the show last year, though. It was great final show.
Oh, I'm so sad I missed that. But again, I think, action, just like comedy, goes hand in hand with horror, and the two kind of lend themselves in hand, where whether you're doing a straight up horror or a straight up action, they both kind of walk the line with it. There's always going to be some form of action scenes and some, a fight scene of something in most horror films, where there's like a evil villain antagonist and a protagonist fighting each other. And the same with action films. So, I mean, I know the Predator isn't getting the best reviews at this time, but I'm really hoping it kind of brings that back to more mainstream. Yeah. We can maybe have another era of more Predator-type movies or more movies along those lines, because the 80s had like some of the best action horror films.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the gold standard, Aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Predator, which, I mean, you knew those two had to meet someday because just because of where they came from. All right, let's get out of here, because you two have to get to Monsterpalooza, and we're gonna want reports next episode.
Hell yeah,
on everything that you've seen. As always, our music is DMP, Death Metal Pope, and also as always, our artwork was provided by Chris Fisher. So check both of them out and give them some love, because they've been giving us love for 12 episodes now. If you want to find me, James J. Edwards, on the Twitters, I am at Cinema Fearite. That's Fearite, like verite, but with fear. Where can we find you, Jacob?
You can find me on Twitter at Jacob Davison _. That is at JACOBDAVISON_ on Twitter.
And you can find me, Jonathan Correa, on Twitter at Korean Barbecue. That's CORREIAN BBQ. And again, don't forget to check us out on Stardust. We currently have Kelly is over at TIFF right now, and she's posting a lot of quick reviews of new horror films, including the new Halloween. She got to see it at the premiere, so check it out. She always has the best insight. I post on there occasionally, but it's usually for older stuff because, again, I don't leave the house often.
Yeah, so we need to get Kelly on one of these.
We really do.
One of these weeks. Maybe when Halloween's released, we'll have a 4-way discussion about it in the middle of October. So anyway, we look forward to reports on Monsterpalooza next time from you guys. And yeah, almost forgot. Go to our Facebook page, Eye on Horror on Facebook, and like that. And that's where you can find any of us. If you don't feel like chasing us down individually on Twitter, you can find all of us there. And also go to iHorror's Facebook page while you're on Facebook and give that a like if you haven't, because that's also where you can find all of us, and Kelly, and Anthony, and Tim, and all of the iHorror family of writers.
Oh, and on our Facebook page, much like on Scare LA, we'll be posting pictures and videos from there as well. usually it'll probably just be me rambling and walking around like an unconscious zombie, but might have a nugget or two in there.
Okay. We'll see you all next time on Eye on Horror. I'm James J. Edwards.
I'm Jacob Davison.
And I'm Jonathan Correa.
Keep your eye on horror.